everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of MOJO Rising, How to Make Cancer Suck Less. And boy, do we have a special story for you today. I am joined by the one and only Terry Apt, who is going to explain how she made the conversion from being a total badass in the cancer arena into understanding the world of complementary medicine. And so we're going to help all of you people out there that are really struggling to understand how we can listen to more than just one opinion, understand how someone from the inside has really discovered how multiple different types of science at one time can really change outcomes. So Terry, I'm so excited to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Terry, will you share with our audience a little bit about your background and kind of what you know about cancer?
Well, I've been in the nursing profession, recently retired after 46 years. I am a board certified nurse practitioner. Um, and also I have a doctorate in naturopathy, specializing in medicinal herbs and aromatherapy.
Oh, so Terry, so tell me, like, let's talk a little bit about the chronological aspects of what you just mentioned. So when did you go to get your doctorate, and like what point in your career were you that you chose to go get your doctorate?
Um, it was after I was working as an oncology nurse practitioner, and I found that the experience was very, very limited. And what patients were receiving was one option of chemotherapy or radiation or surgery, and that was it. And my patients started pulling me aside and saying, "But what do I eat? But what else can I do? But how can I empower myself to help with this and be a team member?" And I had a lot of arguments with the dietitian who would only give Boost or Ensure. And I wanted to help people make smoothies, and I felt like my patients weren't getting any other options to their care. So I wanted to become a naturopath and learn a lot more about other options. I did my herbal training in North Georgia and in Asheville, and started. That was a real awakening for me, to see that natural medicine and nature could help heal the body. And then I also, after getting certified in herbal medicine, I went to Europe, to the Netherlands, to train with a retired nurse whose whole focus is cancer and palliative care and oncology, and was just blown away by that, adding that one other aspect. Back it up a little bit. I also went to Oregon to train with Donnie Yance. He was the first, he's probably the only practitioner I've ever met that really, really walks the walk of holism. And I was just so, I felt like I was home with somebody talking for cancer patients about nutrition and herbs and aromatherapy and prayer, and in addition to Western medicine and chemotherapy. He was the true integrative practitioner. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted my patients to have every option out there to feel better, to get better, to heal. And so that's where it's led me today to my practice called Living Well with Cancer, because I wanted to fill in the gaps of what cancer patients, palliative care patients are not getting. I found that my patients were living appointment to appointment, or appointment to surgery, or appointment to chemotherapy, and nobody knew what to do in between. So they would sit home fearful with their appointment card in their hand, waiting for the next appointment. And I'm like, wait a minute, there are so many things that can be done to empower somebody in between to help um, potentiate whatever Western medicine modality they were receiving, the whole picture.
Terry, I think that was one of my big wake up calls too, is when I really worked with Oscar, who we both know, and looked at it, and I said, okay, my doctor wants me to just use this pharmaceutical. And Oscar's like, yeah, yeah, there's more toolboxes. And so I made him like write them out for me. And we say there's 6 toolboxes to heal. And so I'd be interested in hearing your perspective. And we say it's pharmaceuticals, botanicals, nutraceuticals, diet and eating habits, lifestyle and environment, and then facilitated healers. And if you're not dialing in all 6 of those toolboxes like a true orchestra, you're not actually going to have the healing from the inside out that you deserve. And so we really think you need to have way more than just the pharmaceutical approach. Sounds like you're well aligned. And out of the 6 toolboxes, which are the ones that you would use as part of your practice?
And the six components you're talking about are what came out of Donnie Yance's work. Oscar went through the entire training because he wanted to actually treat cancer. I chose that I didn't want to treat cancer. I wanted to be the backup, the soft sell, um, the nurturing part of that as the nurse I am. So that's why I decided to, where can I fill in the gaps of what the practitioners are doing in those other modalities? So my goal is to provide education, provide options, but not to take the control away because I would say the majority of cancer patients are submissive to their doctor or to their Western modality. And I didn't want that. I wanted to say, well, in order to boost your immune system, we could do this or we could do that. Which one fits mostly with you? And that's what cancer patients are not getting. They're not getting the the options. They're not getting the um, ability to empower themselves, which Western medicine takes away.
I
Western
think
medicine will say, this is what you have to do, and this is what I'm telling you to do, and this is the only thing that you do. So that really disempowers somebody from knowing their body, knowing what fits well with them, and for their philosophy of living. So that's where I think I fit in to help put those pieces together.
it sounds like what you do, which is so important for me and is something that I want to do as well. I don't want to have the generic standard of care. I want it to be dialed in based on my lifestyle and my exact health history and my exact needs, my exact genetic makeup of the tumor. I don't want to say I have breast cancer, so you go to chemotherapy. No, 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 that's not good enough for me. And so I think that's such a beautiful thing that you're offering to your patients is no, 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 let's dial this in so that your lifestyle is actually impacted and factored into your healing strategy because we all have choices we make every single day that can really improve our outcomes far beyond what is being administered to us in how we behave and how we sleep and the diet we're choosing and the nutrients we're taking. So I know that you believe in that. And when I in my research went back and looked at this, and I always thought palliative care was hospice. But when I went back and looked at it and looked at the Journal of Clinical Oncology, I saw that actually every cancer patient who is of maybe a stage 2 or stage 3 or stage 4 for sure should have a secondary care strategy, a palliative care strategy that talks about the impact of the primary care approach and lessening that so that you have a better life. It was written about in 2012 and 2017, but it's just not enacted. So I think what you're doing is actually taking that research, that best practice that we know is out there, and making it real for your patients in a really cool way.
Well, with all due respect, oncologists are trained in disease management only. They have a very narrow window of what they're trained in. They don't know about these other things, although that is slowly changing. I agree with you that um, there is a standard of care and that that's what they'll fall on. It wasn't until I did my training with Donnie that I realized that, wait a minute, not every tumor is going to respond to chemo A or chemo B. Let's test that tumor and go with what's what's going to be the most efficient. Let's not do A and B so that that person's immune system is so depleted that by the time they get to chemo 3, they don't have the results that they want. And my goal is to help people to maximize whatever treatment they're receiving. I believe very, very strongly in boosting the immune system, and that our bodies have this innate ability to heal itself, if we give it the chance, if we give it the right nutrients. Pain management is very important. Sleep is very important. Relationships are very important. But if you don't address all of those different components, that patient is being deprived, I believe, of comfort and healing. I mean, let's just face it, unless you get a good night's sleep at night, it's very hard to conduct the rest of the day. But if you're in pain and you can't sleep, or if you're nauseous and you can't sleep, so and the Western world's answer is to give a pill for everything. And people are starting to say, wait a minute, what else can I do besides take a pill? And by the way, the pills aren't working. So let's try something else. So in my toolbox, I want to have options for them to see what else will work, which they don't get.
Now, Terry, I think you did have done some specialty training in the area of aromatherapy. Is that correct?
Yes, I did a program in Atlanta, and then I went to the Netherlands, to really focus on palliative care and oncology with Madeline Kirchhoff. Um, and that was just an amazing, amazing experience to, um, being able to offer patients different ways of using aromatherapy for relief, for mood boosting, for a decrease in nausea, because Zofran doesn't always work. Um, and showing them also that aromatherapy can be used in addition to symptom management, side effect symptom management, but also promoting their general health and their general mood, which creates hope. And I just fell in love with, being able to do aromatherapy in that way for cancer patients. Also, aromatherapy has several ways that you can receive the benefits of plant medicine. You can diffuse it, you can put it in a bath, you can put it in a compress. There are just so many ways that don't involve ingesting a pill. And I thought that was great because I have patients who absolutely love taking a bath and love getting their medicine in the bath. And then there are others who don't like a bath, but they like a nasal inhaler, and that works for them. It's portable, they can take it with them to work or whatever. So I just loved being able to work with the different, modalities. I don't work with herbs as much with the cancer patients. I leave that to Oscar and others, mostly because I am a licensed nurse practitioner and I have to abide by certain standards to maintain that license. Oncology is not really ready yet for herbs. They'll accept aromatherapy. So I didn't want to alienate the doctors too much by what they consider woo-woo therapy. I will use chamomile tea and ginger tea and some other things, food related herbs that oncologists can say, oh, I've heard of that. That's okay. But aromatherapy, the field is just wildly open and very much a part of the nurse's scope of practice. So even though I am a retired nurse practitioner, I must, maintain my license and abide by the scope of practice.
So let's talk a little bit about the science of aromatherapy because I think I certainly have seen it, many, many places. You've seen it online a lot in doTERRA, and there's lots of different companies and probably lots of different varying degrees of quality of tools. So, but and I'd like to ask a couple questions for our listeners, but let's just talk with how does the science actually work?
That's a great question. Um, Without getting into the biochemistry of plants, the body recognizes plants. And you'll notice that if you do some research on the chemotherapy, a lot have been derived from plants. So when that patient is getting chemotherapy, obviously that's foreign to the body. Body does not recognize, nor does it like the poison. But when you ingest chamomile or ginger or thyme or some of the other herbs, your body is like, ah, I know you. I've met you before. So the body will work synergistically with the plants to create that healing, which I think is absolutely beautiful. So the patient is increasing their focus, increasing their connection with Mother Earth and the things that heal us. So we're ingesting that, and the body knows it and recognize it as something to help it heal, not something to push it away, which the immune system will do. The immune system is based on fighting those foreign substances. So um, when you add plant medicine, because aromatherapy is plant medicine in just a different form, the body will react and work synergistically with it. So it enhances, I believe, anybody that's having chemotherapy or radiation with that treatment. With it's almost like when you add the plant medicine, the body is saying, okay, it's all right. We'll take this chemotherapy. We'll take this immune therapy, and let's work together.
For sure. Okay, now I'm assuming aromatherapy clearly works through our nose and our nasal passages. What type of system in the body is our nose connected to?
Um, the nose, the smell is associated with the limbic system in the brain.
Okay.
Okay, and that system is also responsible for memory and your immune system too. So that's another way that your body will recognize the substance that you're either bathing with or inhaling with. It goes right to the brain, and the brain recognizes it as something that's healing. So it's really whether you're getting it through your skin or you're getting it through your nose, it all works with the brain.
And how long has aromatherapy been in use?
Oh, years and years and thousands of years. I mean, in the Old Testament, you can see references to frankincense and myrrh and some of the other herbs that were used because that was whether it was the Cherokee, whether it was biblical times or whatever, people used plants as their medicine. We've only had penicillin since the 1940s. Well, how did people get better or deal with illnesses before that time? They used plants in all different forms. So I'm gonna say thousands of years.
I
It's
always
pretty
love
tried and true.
I love that when I'll say to someone, well, traditional method healing, and they're like, oh, you mean like pharmaceuticals? I'm like, no, that's conventional. That's the modern healing.
Mhm.
Like traditional healing has been used for thousands and thousands and thousands of years across the globe and is still used across the globe. It's only here that we prioritize pharmaceuticals. And I think that's also so one of the questions I have is around the world, how is it different the use of aromatherapy depending on where you are in the globe?
I would say aromatherapy, as well as other complementary modalities, are much more wildly accepted around the globe because, again, this is where the reference to thousands of years, whether it's the Chinese or the Indians, Western medicine didn't come to those places for thousands, for decades. whatever. So it's a much more widely accepted. In India, you also have Ayurvedic. So you also have around the world a more acceptance of food as medicine. Whereas here in the United States, you know, if you talk to an oncologist, they would argue that food is not medicine, and all these other complementary modalities are not as good as what they have to offer. And that's not true.
Well, and I went back and studied, being the industrial psychology brain that I have, I went back and studied medical school curriculum and was able to identify it was because of 1909, the Flexner report that changed it, where if a medical school taught any of these truly traditional healing approaches, they lost funding. So it is not our doctor's fault that they don't know this. It is truly because of the medical school curriculum was restrained in 1910 to make sure that they wouldn't know aromatherapy or chiropractic or acupuncture or reflexology. So I had to go back and actually pinpoint, like, hey, it was 1910 when they thought it was more about bloodletting than it was about using our herbs was a better approach. And I just want everyone out there to know it's not one or the other. It's all the above. So I think that's both of us are so passionate that it's complementary. We really need to have integrative medicine, not just one or the other. So let's talk a little bit, because one of the things I learned in my process was anytime I brought up something that wasn't taught in medical school, there was a little pushback. But what you're saying is there's less pushback to aromatherapy. So how does this work? What are there any contraindications or safety things that we need to let our listeners know about?
Before I get into that, I will say that in most medical school curriculums, there is one class on nutrition. That's it. If you ask an oncologist what foods to eat to boost the immune system, they don't know the answer to that. Safety considerations. Uh, I am not a practitioner who agrees with ingesting essential oils, although there are some practitioners that do. I think it's very dangerous because when you look at how is the an essential oil made, it's tons and tons and tons of plant material that's distilled. So when you get one drop of essential oil, you're getting very, very powerful medicine. So I'm not a proponent of that. There are also some oils that are very sensitive to sunlight. So you have to make sure, if you're working with a practitioner, that if you're using one of those oils, that you protect yourself from getting burned or getting phototoxic. Um, I would also say that essential oils should not be left around for children to ingest. And then I would say a safety concern would be depending upon that individual person. I always do an assessment before aromatherapy, because that person could be allergic to one of the flowers or roots or plants that are in your blend, and you could make the situation worse. So it's because it's potent medicine, just like herbs. You want to talk to that person and find out a lot about what their life is like.
Okay. What are some of the outcomes someone could hope to achieve utilizing aromatherapy? Or side effects they could hope to alleviate? We can ask it, but like, what's the win in doing this?
Improved mood, less depression, less stress, less anxiety, uh, nausea, insomnia, pain.
It sounds like every person I know, basically, maybe not the nausea, but every person I know needs it from what you just described. Like, this is like betterment for the world you just described.
I agree. That's a great way of putting it. Every person could benefit from some type of aromatherapy based on what's going on, and or herbs. I mean, there are some people that don't want to inhale anything for stress, but they'll take a bath or they'll have a cup of chamomile tea or something like that. So many different options to achieving the goal based on what that person is experiencing. Um, but as you well know, a lot of cancer patients have trouble with mouth sores. And so then they're not eating. So how do you help someone keeping up their nutritional status while they're incapacitated? Somebody who's feeling down in the dumps, how do you make them feel a little sunnier? Um, so it's an individual approach, just like when that patient goes into the doctor's office, there should be an individual approach.
Okay, so Terry, you've mentioned a couple of different modalities. Let's talk about the difference, the efficacy from different modalities. So I think you've mentioned sniffers and baths and maybe compresses or maybe topical. So let's talk a little bit about, is there one of these approaches that's better from an outcome perspective or more beneficial to the patient?
I would say no. What's beneficial is whatever's going to work for you. As I said, if you're really adverse to taking a bath and you're working, or you have a busy lifestyle, a nasal inhaler may be the best for you. It doesn't matter the route in which you're taking the plant medicine. It will depend on what is that plant medicine directing in you.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
makes perfect sense. Okay, let's talk a little bit about sourcing good, strong quality because I know that there's a huge variance. I mean, you can go to any Home Goods or TJ Maxx, you can go to very good, herb stores in Atlanta, and you can find aromatherapy a lot of different places. And my guess is there's a lot of difference in quality. So let's talk a little bit about the right places to source really good quality healing aromatherapy tools.
That's also a great question because if you're using um, plant medicine, whether it's essential oils or herbs, and you're not getting quality, you might be more critical because you're not getting the outcome that you want. And it's really because of the product, not the actual plant. So in my training, I have been exposed to high quality oils and herbs. And when I speak to someone individually and when I refer to resources that are on my webs that will be on my website and on yours. I'm a snob when it comes to quality. If you're going to embark in this journey, just like food, if you're going to choose organic or non-organic, you're going to get a different response. Well, if you're going to choose plant medicine in the form of essential oils, go with the highest quality. Um, Are you wanting me to mention some names?
You sure can, or if you can mention the criteria of what you would look for quality, any of the above. We really want to help people who, I mean, I don't know aromatherapy very well, and after today, I'm going to go buy some. Well, actually, that's not true. For anyone who's listening, if this is before March 23rd, 2024, you shouldn't go buy your own herbs. You should come meet Terry at our launch party because Terry will be at our launch party to teach people and show people the way and help you guys understand. So if you're in Atlanta, March 23rd, the place to be is the West Side Motor Lounge, right behind Georgia Tech, where we would love to show this for you. But for those folks who are listening after March 23rd or won't be able to join us at the launch party, I'd love to give them some criteria for what to look for or how to really infuse this in their everyday life.
Um, that's a great question too. And yes, at the launch party, I will have on my table the quality essential oils that I like to use. I'm also going to have some nasal inhalers that you can choose a few different essential oils, make your own blend, and then your own nasal inhaler. So, and I'm going to stick to like just stress management because I don't know one person on the planet that doesn't need that. Um, so I would say when you're working with a practitioner that knows what they're doing, they're going to guide you to what is good. But again, if you're searching in the supermarket or in stores like that, I think even TJ Maxx and places like that sell essential oils. You're not going to get the quality that you need. Um, so
Yeah. I can appreciate that as I've been really researching the world of supplements. And I used to take all
yes.
my supplements. I buy them at Costco or buy them at the local stores. And then I realized I'm like, oh, they're not shipping them the right way. And they're not making sure that they're being housed in the right way. And they're not looking at the temperature. And they're not like, and all of a sudden I realized I'm like, every single one of those things impacts efficacy. And I can promise you the worker at the average retail store is not worried about the temperature and the sunlight and this that is impacting all those essential oils, which we know does decrease effectiveness. So it is important to make sure you're sourcing them from a good quality aromatherapist or a good quality health food store. There's probably some places online, and we'll make sure that we link to your website as we launch some of our podcast resources so folks understand how to reach out to you as well and learn more. Are there any specific scents that you would say are better for us as we are buying candles or aromatherapy or things like that, where you'd say, like, here are ones that for the average person, this does great benefit?
Well, the story I'll tell you is that most people love lavender for um, depression and relaxation. My aromatherapy teacher in the Netherlands, Madeline, cannot stand the scent of lavender. So if this were a cancer patient and I did not do an assessment and put lavender in their blend, they would have an off-putting reaction to it, or if they were allergic to it. So although I love lavender, she didn't love lavender. Um, I so again, it's so individual. It's not like, in Western medicine where we say, okay, you have high blood pressure. Well, here are three meds that you can take. It's very individual. The other thing is that because essential oil is accessed from the limbic system in the brain, which is also responsible for memory, a particular scent could evoke a very positive response, but it could also revoke a very negative response. Um, I remember the first time I was in Paris and um, was by the Eiffel Tower and smelled lilacs, and it's the first time I had smelled them in 50 years, and it brought me right back to my childhood, and it was so strong and so potent. Um, there are people who will smell something and it brings back a nightmare, a horrible memory. You want to know that before you're offering that particular oil to a patient, because the response is intense and will be a negative output, a negative outcome for them. So that's why talking to your patient for more than 5 minutes in the doctor's office is essential, because you need to know all this stuff, so that you do get a positive outcome, because people are more critical when they're getting a negative outcome and they may not realize it. So the same thing, that person that's going into the grocery store or into Whole Foods or wherever and getting an essential oil, they may not know about the allergies or about bad memories or things like that, which is why you need a, a knowledgeable practitioner. In the same regard, that person who's working in the section of the store that's selling essential oils, if they haven't studied, they don't know what to recommend.
Yeah.
Seek a practitioner that's had some training.
And do you traditionally provide your tools in composites or mixtures or tincture, like in combined form? You wouldn't necessarily always say, like, here is your chamomile, or here is your peppermint, or here is your lavender. My guess is you probably mix a few together to create a blend that's unique to the individual and the outcome they're hoping to achieve. Is that accurate?
Yes, I am not currently making tinctures or blends or anything like that, to sell. Because of my license, I did not want to get into that arena and cause suspicion or cause somebody to, to look at me, because again, there are watchdogs out there that are very critical of complementary therapies. So what I'll do is, I might make recommendations. These 5 oils would be really great for you. I can teach someone to do their own nasal inhaler and stuff like that. But again, I'm making recommendations, but it's up to you what you want to do. if I'm particularly in love with the blend, which is sold from one of these really good sources, I can say there is a blend that is really delightful for anxiety reduction, and you might want to try that. But I am currently not doing any medicine making.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the timing, because this is one of the questions I've held, and it's really like one of the parts of my story that's so different is that I really was hypersensitive about side effects and making cancer suck as little as possible or not suck at all. And so I was really high on prepping my body so that I wouldn't have side effects. So as people know, if you take oxaliplatin chemotherapy, most people have horrible cold sensitivity. Well, instead I put my hands on ice and I ate ice chips the whole time, and I had ice socks on so that I wouldn't have any cold sensitivity so I could avoid that misery. So let's talk a little bit about aromatherapy. Is it better to do this before treatments? Is it better to do this when you have side effects to get rid of side effects? Let's talk a little bit about the timing or the choreography in someone's healing journey of when they should consider deploying this.
Well, first of all, because I believe that everyone, even those who don't have cancer, can benefit from aromatherapy. It can be done before, during, after. Um, there are certain times. Obviously, if you're getting radiation, putting something topically while the treatment is going on, it could be contraindicated. But then after the treatment, if there's burns, there's things to do. Um, and aromatherapy is so flexible that you could be using a blend to uplift your mood and help you sleep, but then all of a sudden you have a tweak in your medicine, in your treatment plan, and you're nauseous. You can use aromatherapy just for when that symptom pops up, and then you could stop that particular treatment and go on with others. So I would say it's extremely flexible to the timing of your journey and thereafter.
Okay. And how do you identify? So I think you've mentioned a couple of times that it's really value to work with someone to help dial in the right mix of tools for you to use as part of your healing journey. Again, whether that's with cancer or without journey or without cancer. So my question for you is, how would I identify the cream from the crop when you think about aromatherapists? Because my guess is there's a lot of difference in quality. Some people did a 2-hour online course and other people did very significant training. So how do you identify the best of the best, or where is a quality aromatherapist that you should trust?
I think it all comes down to doing your research, just like you would do your research for an oncologist or any other specialist, because the practitioner will either put their credentials and their training on their website, or when you speak with them, that's a question that you can ask. What kind of training have you had? Just like doctors and nurse practitioners will, and I started by saying I'm a board certified nurse practitioner. Well, an aromatherapist is going to say I'm an aromatherapist, and there are uh, groups that you can access and find a list in their directory of aromatherapists, and then you can really talk to them and say, what's your training?
Yeah.
There is a great aromatherapist in Atlanta, I will say. Her name is Roz Zollinger, and she's one of the people I took a class with. Um, I know she's very active in aromatherapy as well as reflexology. But
I've been to her
other than
group
that,
before, that's for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
she's quite a lady. So
yeah.
in preparation for our conversation, I looked up a couple of different research articles on aromatherapy, and there was one that I found that was quite interesting. And it looked at the effects of aromatherapy on people who were in the intensive care unit. And so they actually took patients and split them into two groups and had the nursing population split their impact, looking at things like anxiety, sleep quality of those who had access to some of this aromatherapy. And they used a combination of a few specific things. I think they used lavender, Roman chamomile, and neroli. I might not be saying that last name right. And they found significant impact from their nursing population using aromatherapy in anxiety and sleep. And so that was just one of the many, many studies I looked at in preparation for our time today. And I know that there are lots of studies out there as well. But are there any specific studies or places for those folks that are a little more skeptical, you would say, hey, this might be a good place for you to check in to learn more about the science of this if you need that before you actually try this?
It's funny you mentioned that because the way which I got involved in aromatherapy in nursing was when I went to I'm a member of the American Holistic Nursing Association, and they have a conference every year. And I remember meeting this nurse who did a study at a hospital, a major hospital. I don't even remember what. And her study was on a particular floor, and each day at 3 o'clock, the patients would get a cotton ball with lavender on it in a little cup, and the hospital on the television, you know how they have those channels, whatever, would have a channel with music and calming, whatever. And they found an incredible decrease in how many times the person hit the button and how many times people needed pain medication. And that was my beginning of, oh my God, that's incredible that people that are that much more comfortable would have a decrease in those symptoms. I also wrote an article that was recently published in the American Journal, the American Holistic Nursing Association Journal, on the effect of using aromatherapy with inpatient psychiatric patients. And this was incredible because, my patients, I was working in psych for 3 years before I retired. And the use of aromatherapy as a different and an additional option other than taking a pill for anxiety or for sleep was incredible when we used aromatherapy in a group setting or to have them go to sleep, help them go to sleep, because again, the medicines didn't always work and people were coming in with all kinds of acute problems. So the aromatherapy can be used in different populations for different reasons, for different goals.
Okay. Do you, and then I've got one or two more questions, and then I would just want to open it up to say, is there anything I don't know? So my one or two questions is, so we constantly are barraged with saying, oh, this is designed with lavender to help you sleep, or this to do this, or to do this to do, or, all sorts of products are infusing this in. Honestly, I think likely from a marketing perspective. So I think my question was really, when you think about the purity of a pure essential oil or a sniffer or something that you put in a bath versus something where it has mixed in, is there a difference in clinical outcomes? And my assumption is yes, but I don't want to, I wanted to ask you that, of like, when you think about where you have things mixed in versus the purity of an oil, my guess is there could be an assumption, a difference in perceived outcomes from patients.
When you say mixed in, what are you referring to?
Like, my bath has lavender mixed into the bath, the cleanser I'm using, or maybe it's in my Dr. Bronner soap or something. That's not the same. When you get that lavender sensation, it's not the same as what you would get using an essential oil like in a diffuser or in a sniffer. Is that correct?
I would say that's correct, and they probably are using the tiniest amount possible due to money issues and pulling in that population that really wants complementary options, but they don't really know enough to know. And then they're going to use that product and not get the outcome and say, okay, lavender doesn't work. Yeah.
Think that's probably pretty real. I'm imagining, Terry, after our conversation, people in the Atlanta traffic, and if you know Atlanta very well, besides LA and Chicago, it's got some of the worst traffic on the planet. That we need to give everyone anxiety sniffers. So that way, when you're in the middle of traffic, you just pull that out and okay, we're not going to have road rage right now. We're not going to have this issue, that we can really change the world a little bit, maybe by infusing it in their air conditioner in the car. So at 5 o'clock, it just automatically giving you the anti-anxiety smell. So we can change the world if we just work together.
I totally agree. And one of the things that's funny, you call him a sniffer. I call it a smelly stick or a nasal inhaler, but um, is that it's very easy to put it in your pocket. Or I used to have one when I lived in Marietta and traveled to Atlanta, whatever. I used to have one that I kept in my car, in addition to one in my purse. And that's what's great about using the nasal inhalers is that, you can't stop in the middle of the day and take a bath. Um, you might be able to have cream with you and put that on your skin, but it's so easy to have one of those inhalers, and they last. I have one that they last for years.
Yeah.
But yes, everybody traveling in Atlanta needs to have a smelly stick in their car with anxiety reducing oils in it, because I just traveled it recently and oh my God, every time I go to Atlanta, the traffic's worse.
That's exactly right. So, all right, Terry, what questions haven't I asked that our audience should know about aromatherapy?
We've covered an awful lot,
Yeah.
an awful lot. I think my take home message is um, work with a practitioner that knows what they're doing, work with quality oils and or herbs, um, because you will get a better outcome. And um, you deserve it. You deserve it. Work with your body to heal as much as possible. Um,
I've been likening how if you do treatment just as it is the standard of care, I kind of think it's barbaric. And I think what you just gave us is a way to make this a humane treatment so that we can really feed our soul and feed our body and give our immune system and give ourselves every advantage on our health journey. Whatever your health journey is, make sure that you're using all the tools, and especially the tools that our ancestors used to heal their bodies with such success. So I think I love what you're bringing to the table. I love the idea of complementary and integrative medicine. I truly believe it is the answer for almost any major health crisis. Would you agree?
I do agree. And something that you've said a couple of times during this podcast is research. Just because the doctor says you got to do it this way doesn't mean you got to do it that way. Do the research. Ask, has my tumor, can we send it away to be tested? What, rather than the standard of care, what will target my individual situation? Um, you know, do something with that fear, put that fear to the side and work with your brain to ask those questions. Um, cancer is now considered a chronic disease. Although some people, get cancer and it's acute and they don't survive from it, most cancers now are chronic. So again, to quell that fear a little bit, to put those questions, what can I do? If your doctor doesn't know what you can do to help yourself, find somebody that will help you to do that. And that's where I fill in the gaps in between. Find somebody who knows about nutrition, who knows about the immune system, who can help you with your sleep so that whatever is being done in the Western world can be potentiated for the best outcome. And so that everybody can look as good as you look today.
Oh, Terry, well, thank you. And I certainly have worked hard to feel as healthy as I feel and to look as healthy as I feel, because I think it's so important for me. And I understood every single decision of what I ate and how I treat my body and the exercise I do impacts my overall health and wellness. So those decisions we make and what we feed our body from a food and fuel and spiritual perspective, it does impact our overall health and wellness. So that was certainly my big aha and wake up call. And I want to give that to our listeners as well. So For everyone listening to us, thank you so much for learning a little bit more about aromatherapy. We certainly hope you will join us at our launch party, March 23rd. There will be details as we launch this podcast so that you can find an RSVP. And so we have an idea of how many people will be there. But we would love for you to come and meet me, but of course, meet Terry as well, and dial in the right aromatherapy for you, if nothing else, to get a smell stick so you can reduce your anxiety leaving the party and the traffic. But we know that this really does do a lot for you for outcomes from sleep, wellness, anxiety, stress reduction, nausea. The list is endless. So come learn a little bit more. If not at our party, then certainly look at Terry's website or find a quality aromatherapist near you to make sure you're dialing in the very best health journey possible. So Terry, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate you and are so grateful for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all that you're doing for our precious cancer patients. My website is www.livingwellwithcancercoach.com. My phone number is 770-780-0342. I'm here to answer, questions. Also, I have the ability to do a discovery call to see if I am the right practitioner for you, because that's part of empowering too. If you find somebody and you're not clicking with them, find someone else. So that's why I do discovery calls to see, whether our philosophies will mesh. So thank you so much for all you do.
Oh, Terry, I mean, I think you know as well as I do that this only gets better when we work together to change the game and to really level the playing field. So we so appreciate you. And for all of our listeners, may you live long and lucky. We hope you really learned something from the knowledge bombs we dropped on you today. And we hope that you will live the very best life possible. So thank you to all for listening. We're so grateful for you. And may you live long and lucky. Okay, take care, all.